कर दिया बेटे, करें इसमें मेरा ख्याल कर दिया।
हेलो,
हेलो,
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग।
सर ये ऋचा गोयल के नाम से सर
गुड
आप
मॉर्निंग
ही
सर।
हाँ हाँ, कंप्यूटर
सर
बिलोंग्स
मैं
टू अस।
आपको जी होस्ट बना रहा हूँ सर। जी सर।
हाँ, वीडियो तो नहीं है आपको?
जी सर विजिबल है सर।
विजिबल।
जी सर।
लाइट चेंज करनी है। इसको F5 कर दूं, F5 करता पूरा आ जाएगा, फुल पेज आ जाएगा। ठीक है, गुड, थैंक यू। हेलो,
हेलो सर।
हेलो, everybody joined or should I wait for some time?
सर अभी केवल 20 स्टूडेंट्स आए हैं सर, अभी हमें थोड़ी सी देर वेट करना होगा सर, 5-7 मिनट बस।
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग। हाँ, उतार दियो।
सर 30 स्टूडेंट्स आ गए हैं सर, कुछ थोड़े से ही स्टूडेंट रह रहे हैं।
I think there are around 60 students, isn't it?
सर 55 के करीब स्टूडेंट्स हैं, तो
Mhm.
सर इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है, फिर हम रिकॉर्डिंग दे देंगे सर, जो स्टूडेंट रह जाएंगे।
अच्छा, इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहे हो?
हाँ जी सर।
ठीक है। तो after 2-3 minutes I will start.
हाँ जी सर।
So I start now. Sunil, should I start?
Yeah,
Good
sir.
morning.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
जी
Hello.
आ गए हैं सर, काफी सारे
सर
35 हो गए हैं।
ठीक है जी सर, I start now.
ओके सर, ओके।
Good morning, everybody.
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
So I shall be taking a course of algebra. If you look up the syllabus of algebra, it is divided in two parts. One is certainly abstract algebra, other is linear algebra. Now, in case of abstract algebra, we are just going to touch upon field extensions, because one of the important problems in algebra is solving polynomial equations. Now, let us recall that if f is any field, then an expression of the form a naught plus a1x plus a2x square plus an xn, where a naught, a1, a2, an are elements in field, this is called a polynomial over f. Now, it is not necessary for a polynomial to be defined always on a field. It can be on a ring also. Like polynomial over the ring of integers or natural numbers. But it been most of the time we shall be discussing polynomial over a certain field. And if suppose Px is any polynomial as defined like this, then an element alpha of a field F is called a zero. Normally it should be called zero because it is a polynomial, and we talk of zeros of a polynomial and roots for a equation, polynomial equation. So and any element alpha will be called a zero of this polynomial provided P of alpha equal to 0. Now we have got the following problems related to this part. Like if you are given a polynomial equation over a field, does it always possess a solution? If it possesses a solution, then does it have a unique solution? Or if it doesn't possess a solution, can we find some other field over which it can have a solution? And then if you are given a polynomial equation, say of degree n, does it always have only n solutions, or it can have less than n solutions or more than n solutions? So we are going to discuss all these problems in this particular part of the syllabus. Now from fundamental theorem of algebra, we know that if you are given a polynomial equation over the field of complex numbers, say polynomial equation degree n, then it always possesses exactly n solutions over the field of complex numbers. Now this also includes polynomials over rational numbers or real numbers, because all of them are complex numbers. Now suppose a given polynomial equation defined on any field doesn't possess a solution. Can we have some field bigger than the given field over which it has a solution? That particular situation is called the extension of a field. So let us give a formal definition of extension of a field. Normally, if you just see set of field of rational numbers, field of real numbers, field of complex numbers. You know, set of rational numbers is a subset of real numbers, and set of real numbers is a subset of complex numbers. So in mathematical language, we'll say that R is an extension of Q, C is an extension of R, and thereby it is an extension of Q also. So if F is any given field and K is any other field, then we say that this field K is an extension of the field F, provided F is a subfield of K. Now we know that every field can be thought of as a vector space over itself. So in view of this, if K is an extension of a field F, then this K can be regarded as a vector space over F. Now, the moment we get a vector space, we have got the whole theory of vector spaces available to us, like concept of linear independence, concept of linear independence, or base of a vector space, etc., etc. So once this K is regarded as a vector space over F, then this K can be either a finite dimension vector space over F, or it is an infinite dimension vector space over F. We all know that if a vector space has got a finite basis, by basis we mean a collection of vectors which is linearly independent and which spans the whole space. Now, if this basis contains only finitely many elements, we say that K is a finite dimensional vector space over F. Otherwise, K is said to be an infinite dimensional vector space over F. Now, of course, most of the time we are going to concentrate ourselves only finite dimensional vector spaces. But as far as extensions are concerned, now extension, likewise extension can be finite extension or it can be infinite extension. For example, if you consider the field of real numbers, then field of real numbers is an infinite extension of the field of complex numbers. Whereas field of complex numbers is a finite extension of field of real numbers. So this is going to be very important concept as far as field extension is concerned. So we are going to make use of this notation as far as finite extensions are concerned. We will write in within square brackets K colon F just to show the degree. It is called degree of K over F. Degree of K over F. So if K is a finite dimensional vector space over F, then we will say that K is a finite extension of F. Our first result in this direction is the Tower theorem, that is called a Tower theorem, and which simply says that you must have already studied this in your PG classes, that if L is a finite extension of a field K, and K is a finite extension of the field F, then the relation between L and F is that L is also a finite extension of F. And moreover, they are linked by this relation that degree of L over F is equal to degree of L over K times degree of K over F. Now I won't go into the proof of this theorem, but I will just make a brushing remark. Because L is a finite extension of K, it means L is a finite dimension vector space over K. So L has a finite basis with respect to K, and and suppose the degree of L over K be M. Then let B1 be equal to B1, B2, Vn be a basis of L over K, and likewise K is a finite extension of F, that is K is a finite dimensional vector space over F. So let V2, W1, W2, Wn be a basis of K over F. Then with the help of these two bases, we shall try to define a finite base of L over F. And it is a very natural way to find. You just, because F is a subfield of K and K is a subfield of F. Therefore, all elements of F, K, they are all elements of L also. So by composition, V, I, W, J, they are all elements of L. And if you just look up the product, V is equal to V, I, W, J, where I range over 1 and M, I range over 1 to N, then this contains Mn elements, and it can be shown that this particular collection V is of L over F. And because it contains Mn elements, there is a lot of disturbance. Can it be?
Sir,
There is a lot of disturbance.
हेलो
हाँ जी,
सर आप मुझे एक बार कोहोस्ट बना दीजिए जो ये डिपार्टमेंट आ रहा है उसको से राइट क्लिक करके कोहोस्ट बना दीजिए तो मैं सबको म्यूट कर दूंगा सर।
हेलो,
हाँ जी सर। हेलो
हाँ जी,
सर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ जहाँ पे ये सीसीएस यूनिवर्सिटी डिपार्टमेंट है ना इसमें इस पे आप क्लिक करेंगे तो एक को-होस्ट का ऑप्शन आएगा क्योंकि मैंने आपको होस्ट बना दिया है ना तो मेरे पास राइट्स नहीं रहे म्यूट करने के तो इसलिए ये बाकी लोगों का डिस्टरबेंस हो रहा है मैं कर नहीं पा रहा हूँ सर कुछ भी।
इसको क्लिक कर दो बस में।
हाँ जी इस पे क्लिक करेंगे ना सर तो एक को-होस्ट का ऑप्शन आ जाएगा मेक को-होस्ट तो उस पे क्लिक कर देंगे तो मेरे पास भी राइट्स आ जाएंगे सर।
नहीं, ये तो चल ही रहा है। नहीं चल रहा है ये। एनीवे, इसको थोड़ा सा मिनिमाइज कर लीजिए डिस्टर्बेंस को, if possible।
सर मैं सर अभी कर जी।
यार किसी के पास कांटेक्ट नंबर है तो इनको कॉल करके बोल दीजिए सुभाष सर
सर मैं
से।
बोल रहा हूँ सर।
हाँ ठीक है।
ये तो ठीक है लेकिन मैं बोल रहा हूँ ये पानी जो ला है ये एक साथ दूसरी चिमटी में आती है बनने वाली वो इन सबको गुच्छा करके एक साथ बांध दो या इनको किसी के साथ कुछ कर लो
ऑनलाइन चल रहा है बोल करो हाँ नेट दिखाना है
So I continue.
Yes sir, please.
I continue.
Yes sir.
Okay, so we have seen that this particular theorem is known as Tower theorem, that if K is a finite extension of F and L is a finite extension of K, then L is a finite extension of F. And they are related by this relation that degree of L over F is the same as degree of L over K times degree of K over F. So from here we can see that degree of K over F divides degree of L over F over degree of L over K. And so, whatever intermediate fields we are given, we can have this type of relation provided the extensions are finite. Now, one of the important problem is, suppose F is any given field and there is some field K in which there is one element, say U in K, which doesn't belong to F. Now, can I generate a field with the help of U and F? The answer is yes. And in mathematics, especially abstract mathematics, there are two types of extension. One is known as internal extension, other internal construction, and other is known as external construction. So first, I am going to give you the concept of internal construction. So what I am going to take, I am going to consider a collection, say capital H, consisting of all subfields of K, to which both F and U belong, which contains F and to which U also belongs. Now, this collection is non-empty because K is always there. And since arbitrary intersection of fields is again a field, therefore, if I just look up the intersection of all these subfields H of K, then this is a field, and in this intersection, F is contained and U also belongs. So let me denote this intersection by F of U. So F of U is a field which contains F as well as to which U belongs. Now this particular field, this is known as field obtained by adjoining U to F. And later on, we will term this FU as a simple extension of F. That is an extension which is obtained by adjoining a single element U to a given field F. So F of U, so it simply shows that there always exists a field which contains both F as well as U. And that way it gives us a method of constructing of extensions of a given field F with their of elements which are not in F. Now, as far as external construction of this is concerned, what we are going to consider, we are going to consider all polynomials over F in U. The collection of all such polynomials is going to be a subfield which contains both F and U. I think it will be sufficient if you remember this fact that elements, because this just gives you the idea how the elements of F of U are going to look like. So external extension always gives you the feeling that how the elements of FU, because FU certainly exist that we have seen, but how the elements of this field going to look like, they are nothing but polynomials in U over F. And after this, we have the following result. That suppose K is an extension of a field F and U is any element of K. Now, first, let me just introduce one more concept that is called the algebraic over F. We say that an element U in K over F is said to be algebraic over F, provided U satisfies some non-zero polynomial over F. That is, there exists a polynomial Px in F, so over F such that P of U equal to 0. Now this polynomial we can take to be of smallest degree, and moreover we can take this as a monic polynomial. By monic polynomial, we mean a polynomial the coefficient of whose highest power is 1. This we can always do because construction is again very simple, because what you do, you look up the collection L of all polynomials over Fx or over F such that Q of U equal to 0. That is which are satisfied by U. Again, this is non-empty because U is algebraic over F. So at least one non-zero polynomial always exists. Now, if you just look up the collection L, it contains only polynomials, and there are positive integers attached to each polynomial, namely the degree of the polynomial. So we have got a set of integers, positive integers, with the help of these polynomials. Now, by word ordering principle, this has got a least element. So suppose m is the least positive integer of this set, then the polynomial whose degree is n that is the polynomial of smallest degree which is satisfied by u. Now this is the polynomial, or we will call this as the minimal polynomial. Now because if u satisfy px, and if I multiply it by any constant, it doesn't change the nature of this polynomial. It will again be satisfied by u. So any constant multiple of px is again satisfied by u. So without any loss of generality, we can take the coefficient of px to be equal to 1, because if it is not 1, I can divide by its inverse. So I can always find a polynomial smallest degree, which is monic also, which is satisfied by u. This polynomial is said to be the minimal polynomial, and moreover, this is going to be irreducible also. Irreducible, it cannot be further factorized. So, and it is also not difficult to see that px is also irreducible, because suppose it is not irreducible, it is reducible. That is, it can be written as a product of two polynomials, say kx and tx, where degree of kx is less than px, degree of tx is also less than px. Now, because u is a root of px, therefore p of u equal to 0 implies k of u times t of u, this is also 0. Now k of u and t of u, they are elements of the field F. And since every field is an integral domain, if the product of two elements is 0, one of the elements should be 0. So suppose k of u equal to 0. Now, since degree of kx is less than degree of px and px is of smallest degree, so therefore it is not possible. It will contradict that px is of smallest degree. And likewise for tx we can dispose of. Therefore, no such pair of polynomials exist which can be written as a product of px. So we have seen in this, through this theorem, three things. Namely, if u is algebraic over f, then we can always find a minimal polynomial px over f, which is satisfied by u, and at the same time, this particular polynomial is irreducible also. And moreover, it can be seen that such a polynomial is unique also. So we have got the following definition. So let K be an extension of a field F, and suppose U is any element of K. A polynomial Px over F is said to be the minimal polynomial of U if, number one, Px is monic, number two, Px is of smallest degree, and it is satisfied by U also. So having observed this, we have the following theorem. Namely, if K is an extension of F and U is any element of K, be such that Ku is algebraic over F with minimal polynomial Px over, say, of degree n, then the Fu which we have considered a little while ago, that is field obtained by adjoining U to F. It can be thought of as Fx is a rather quotient field of Fx and RDL generated by Px, and it has got a base 1, u square, u n minus 1. It is a basis of this vector space Fu over F, and degree of Fu over F is equal to n. Now, in fact, it is going to give you an insight that if you are given a polynomial which is irreducible, and suppose it doesn't have a root over f, then how can we extend this particular f to get a field over which it has got a root? And this is nothing but the quotient field. So this fu can be realized as a quotient field of fx over px. Now again, I will just briefly outline the proof of this theorem, because detail can be found out in books. Now we know that fu is a field and u belongs to fu. Now because fu is a field, so u square, u cube, they are all elements in fu. Also, since f is contained in fu, there are elements of the form alpha naught plus alpha 1u plus alpha 2u square, alpha m, u m, where alpha naught, alpha 2, alpha m belongs to f. So they are all elements in fu. This shows that fu contains all elements, all the polynomials of fu for each fx in fx. Now, with the help of this, we can define a function phi, which is from a ring of polynomials over fx into this field fu by setting f of phi of fx as f of u. Then this can be seen that this particular function phi is a ring homomorphism. And once you get a ring homomorphism, we can talk of the kernel of this ring. Suppose B is the kernel of this function phi. Kernel means it is the collection of all elements of field which are mapped to the zero of the field fu. So V is equal to fx in fx such that phi of fx equal to 0. That is, it is the set of all fx in fx such that f of u equal to 0. Now, since px also belongs to V and px is the minimal polynomial of u over f, therefore each element of V can be written as a product of a polynomial with px. So that is, since each element is expressible, or each element of V is expressible as a product with px, that means V is generated by px. So we just denote this by V is equal to this ideal px, and so V becomes an ideal. And since px is irreducible, therefore V is a maximal ideal, and hence fx by V is a field. So from here, we have been able to construct a field. And by the fundamental theorem of ring homomorphism, it means fx by V is isomorphic to the phi image of f of x. So we are interested now in knowing what is the phi image of fx. Now we know that under phi, each element of f remains fixed. That is, phi of alpha is equal to alpha for all alpha in f. And moreover, phi of x, the way we have defined, phi of x is nothing but u. Therefore, phi image of fx contains both f as well as u. And since fu is the smallest field which contains both f and u, it means fx by V is precisely f of u. And since f of u is a field, therefore fx by V is also a field. So fx by V is nothing but fx by the ideal generated by px, and that is fu. So this proves the first part of the theorem, that is f of u can be realized as the quotient of fx and V. Now, as far as second and third part are concerned, they are simple. They can easily be seen. After this, we have got another important result, namely if K is an extension of F, and if A and B are any two elements on K which are algebraic over F, say they are of degree M and N, it means A satisfies a polynomial of degree M and B satisfies a polynomial of degree N, and if both M and N are relatively prime, then degree of f of AB over F is precisely M of N. Otherwise, they are always less than or equal to Mn. And proof is simple, it can be seen. And likewise, we have this result that every finite extension K of a field F is always an algebraic extension. By algebraic extension, we say that an extension K of a field F is algebraic over F or algebraic extension of F, provided each element of K is algebraic over F. That is, each element of K satisfies some non-zero polynomial over F. And what this problem says that every finite extension is always an algebraic extension. Proof is just simple, because K is a finite extension of F. Suppose degree of K over F is N. So we will show that every element A of K is algebraic over F. Suppose A belongs to K. Then again, since K is a field, A square, A cube, A, and etc., they are all elements of K. Now, if we just look up n elements, A square, A cube, A n plus 1. If we just look up n plus 1 elements, they all belongs to K. Now we know that if dimension of K over F is n, then any set of vectors which contains more than n elements is always linearly dependent. And hence, since A square, A cube, A raised to power n plus 1, they are n plus 1 in number. Therefore, we can always find elements of F, not all of which are 0, say alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n plus 1, such that A alpha 1 A plus alpha 2 A no A square up to alpha n plus 1 A raised to power n plus 1 equal to 0. And suppose we assume Px to be equal to this polynomial alpha 1 x plus alpha 2 x square up to alpha n plus 1 x raised to power n plus 1. Then this particular polynomial Px is defined over F and is such that P of A equal to 0. That is, A becomes algebraic over F. That is, every element of K is algebraic over F, and hence K is an algebraic extension of F. Another result, because suppose we consider collection of all algebraic elements of K over F, what does this collection becomes? Is it a subfield or not? Does it contain this? Does this subfield contains F or not? So this particular theorem gives answer to this particular problem. That is, suppose K is an extension of a field F, and suppose U and V are in K are algebraic over F, then U plus V, U minus V, UV, U divided by V where V is non-zero are all algebraic over F. In other words, collection of all algebraic elements of K over F is a subfield of K which contains F. And again, the proof I can just skip because it is given in your book also. And it is easy also. But you can just, because otherwise some important portion will be left untouched. So I have already defined that an extension K of a field F is said to be algebraic, provided each element of K is algebraic over F. And again, we have got a theorem like Tower theorem for finite extensions. That is, if L is an algebraic extension of a field K and K is an algebraic extension of a field F, then L is an algebraic extension of field F. Now, this particular theorem can be disposed of using the previous theorem known. So again, the same problem, again, the solution remains the same, that if we want to show that L is an algebraic extension of F, we will show that each element of L is an algebraic element over F. That is, each element of L satisfies some polynomial over F. Or in other words, we will say, because we have already seen that every finite extension is an algebraic extension. In the previous problem, we proved this. So in order to show that L is an algebraic extension of F, we will show a stronger result, namely L is a finite extension of F. Now to show this, we proceed as follows. So suppose U belongs to L. Let us take an arbitrary element U in L. So we will show that U satisfies some non-trivial polynomial over F. Now what information we have got? L is an algebraic extension of K. It means U satisfies some polynomial over K. Let this polynomial be fx is equal to, again we can take this to be a monic polynomial, x raised power n plus c n minus 1, x power n minus 1, up to plus c1x plus c0, where c0, c1, c2, cn minus 1, they are all elements of K. Now, further what we know, that K is an extension, algebraic extension of F. It means C0, C1, C2, Cn minus 1. They are all algebraic elements over F. It means if I adjoin all these elements C0, C1, C2, Cn minus 1 to F, that is, if I consider f of C0, C1, C2, Cn minus 1, now this is a field. If I denote this by M, it means this field M is a finite extension of F. Okay, so M, the degree of M over F becomes finite. Now the polynomial fx can be thought of, this polynomial fx, which I considered over field K. Now K is contained in M, so I can think of this polynomial as a polynomial over M also. It means U satisfies this polynomial fx over M. That is if I adjoin this U to M, L over M U, this becomes, or rather MU over M becomes finite extension. So I can just write MU over F to be equal to MU over M times M over F, because MU is a finite extension of M. So by the Tower theorem for finite extension, I can always express this MU as over F as MU over M times M over F. And since the right hand side is finite, therefore MU over F is finite. Therefore, U is an algebraic element over F. And hence, each element of L is algebraic over F. So L becomes an algebraic extension of F. Now, one of the problems what we posed in the beginning was that suppose we are given a polynomial, say of degree n. How many roots does this polynomial has in any over the field or in any extension of f? The answer here lies in this particular lemma. It says that if f is any field and if px is any polynomial over f, say it is of degree n, then this px can have at most n roots in any extension of f. So it has given a sort of upper bound that at most it can have n roots. It cannot have more than n roots in any extension, whatsoever you consider, of field f. And the proof, let us see the proof of this theorem, because this is important. It is going to give us the proof of the fundamental theorem of algebra also. So we are going to prove this theorem by the principle of induction over the degree. We shall apply the induction, because induction is applicable only on the positive set of positive integers. So the set of positive integers is given by only by the degree of polynomials. So we shall apply the induction on degree of polynomial px. Now suppose degree of px is 1. It means it is a linear polynomial. So it is of the form ax plus b, where a and b are elements of f and a is non-zero. Because a is non-zero, so I can divide by a, because a is an element of f, and every non-zero element possesses inverse. So what I get from here, x is equal to minus b upon a. Now if I denote this alpha, a is this minus b upon a by alpha, then we see that p of alpha equal to 0. That is, this particular polynomial has got a root, only one root, because this element minus b upon a is a unique element. So for degree px is equal to 1, we have seen that it has a single root, namely alpha is equal to minus b upon a. Now let us assume that the result be true for all polynomials of degree less than n over any field, and let px be of degree n over f. Let k be any extension of f. If px doesn't have any root over k, it means it has got at most n roots, because having no root means at most n case is there. So if px doesn't have any root in k, then it satisfies the theorem trivially. So let us assume that px have at least one root. So let us suppose it has got one root, say alpha in k, and that too, say, is of multiplicity m. That is, alpha is repeated n times. Alpha, 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 m times. So it means px can be written as x minus alpha times m times some other polynomial, say qx. That is, x minus alpha raised to the power m divides px. Okay. Or in other words, px can be written as x minus alpha raised to the power m times qx, where qx also belongs to kx, and degree of qx is obviously n minus m. Now, because we have seen that, or we have shown that the multiplicity of this root alpha is m. Therefore, m is the largest positive integer, such that x minus alpha raised to the power m divides p raised to the power x. And as a consequence of this, x minus alpha raised to the power m plus 1 doesn't divide Px. Okay. Now suppose beta is any other element of K which is different from alpha. We will, and suppose this beta is a root of Px, then we will show that this beta is a root of Qx. Okay, we'll show that beta is a root of Px. Now, again, because beta is a root of Px, therefore 0 is equal to P beta, and this is beta minus alpha raised to the power m times Q beta. Now, because beta is not equal to alpha, therefore beta minus alpha is non-zero. And mth power of beta minus alpha is also going to be non-zero. Since Q beta belongs to K, therefore, and product of two elements of K is 0, therefore one of the elements has to be 0. So this implies Q beta equal to 0. So any root of Px which is different from alpha is going to be a root of Qx. So, and since degree of Qx is less than n, therefore by induction hypothesis, number of roots of Qx can be at most n minus m. So considering roots alpha of multiplicity m, we see that Px has at most m plus n minus m, which is precisely n roots in any extension of f. Now here lies two important problems. We have seen that if Px is any polynomial over f, over field f, and if it is of degree n, then in any extension, of course field extension of f, it can have at most n roots. Now suppose instead of considering extension to be a field, we consider an extension which is not a field. Does this theorem still holds good? Or suppose the characteristic of the field is given to be, say, P different from 0. Does it still have the same this result true? And we will show that in both the situation, the result may not hold good. Now, as example, let us consider. You must have all heard about the quaternions. Alpha naught, its elements are nothing but that is an suppose R is field of real numbers. You look up elements of the form alpha naught plus alpha 1 I plus alpha 2 j plus alpha 3 k. Look at all elements of this form. This is called a quaternion. And if you consider the collection where I, j, k are related as such, I times j is equal to k, j times k is equal to I, k times I is equal to j, and ji is equal to minus k. Likewise, kj equal to minus I, and ik is equal to minus j. That is, they are not commutative. Product is not commutative. Then the collection of all these quaternions, it is not a field, because for field we require commutative part. Rather, it is called SQ field. The proof is given in Herstein's book. When you start studying examples on ring theory. So there you will find this particular example, and it is discussed there in detail. It is not a field, rather it is a skew field. Skew field means a field which does not possess the property of commutativity for multiplication. That is called a skew field. So it is not a field. And you can see that if I look up a polynomial x squared plus 1, now in this particular extension, which is not a field, it has got 3 roots, namely I, j, and k, because I square is equal to minus 1, j square is equal to -1 and k square is also equal to -1. So this particular result is going to be true provided the extensions are fields. If they are not fields, then the theorem is no longer true. Likewise, if we have, suppose, a field, say, of characteristic 2, by characteristic 2, we say that a field is of characteristic P, provided P of alpha equal to 0 for all alpha in F. So if it is of characteristic 2, it means 2 of alpha equal to 0 for all alpha in F. So in this case, if you consider a polynomial P 2x, if you can look up polynomial 2x, then it has got infinitely many roots, because whatever x whatever value give to x, it is a root, because 2 times of that is always going to be 0. So this particular theorem is going to be true provided either the extension is provided the extension is a field. If it is not a field, the theorem breaks down, and if it is of characteristic different from 0, again this breaks down. So we have to keep this in mind. Now let us proceed further. It says the theorem that let f be any field and let px be a polynomial in fx of, say, of degree n. Let us further assume that px is irreducible over f. Then there always exists an extension E of f such that E over f is equal to n. Degree of E over f is n, and px has at least one root in E. Now, this is an answer to my problem which I posed in the beginning, that suppose you are given a polynomial equation over some field f. Is it always necessary that it always possesses a solution over f? If it is not, if it doesn't possess a solution, can we have some extension of this field over which it has a solution? And we have given answer to that particular problem here. And by repeated use of this particular theorem, we will prove our fundamental theorem of algebra. And proof is more or less obvious, but I will just sketch the proof. Now we are given that Px is a polynomial which is taken to be irreducible over Fx. So because it is irreducible polynomial, with the help of this polynomial, we can generate an ideal V, Px. That is, V is the ideal generated by Px. Remember, Px is irreducible. Now, since this ideal is generated by an irreducible polynomial, so V becomes a maximal ideal. And the moment we have got a maximal ideal, then by our knowledge from field theory in algebra, Fx by V becomes a field. Fx by x by V is a field. And let us denote this field E by E, that is E is equal to Fx by V. And we are going to prove that this field is our required field. That is, this is the field we were looking for, and in which this particular Px is going to have a root. Now, let us define a function psi from Fx, ring of polynomials Fx, into E, again into this field E. Our construction remains the same as we have seen in the previous theorem. And how it is defined? By setting psi of Fx as Fx plus V. That is, it is a coset, because elements of Fx by V, they are nothing but cosets. Now it can be seen that this psi is nothing but a ring homomorphism. And we can just specify here that psi of any element alpha of f, psi of alpha is nothing but alpha plus v, and psi of x is nothing but it will be x plus v only. Now let us, belonging to f, let us look up f tilde to be elements of the form alpha plus v, therefore as alpha varies over f. That is, we have considered this particular subset of fx by v. Now remember, these are cosets. These are nothing but cosets. Okay, we know that f is contained in fx. So we will like to see what is the image. What is the image of psi over this f tilde? Now, because f tilde is a subset of fx by v, so we can talk of some sort of restriction also to this particular subfield. Now, since f contained in fx it is a subset, so I can talk of restriction psi to f, and let me denote this restriction by say psi tilde. So psi tilde is a function from f into fx by v, and how it is defined? Psi tilde of alpha is nothing but alpha plus v, and alpha f tilde is a subfield of E. Therefore, E is an extension of f tilde, and so it is going to be an extension of f also. So we have seen that this E is an extension of f. Now just see, we have to be very careful. Elements of f tilde, they are nothing but cosets. They are subsets, whereas elements of f are nothing but ordinary elements. But through this isomorphism, we have just correlated the elements of f with elements of f tilde. Once we have got this, now our problem is solved, because we have seen that E is an extension of f. So this was the first part we needed. Next, what we want to show that this E over f is of degree n. That is, E is an n-dimensional vector space over f. And for this, it is very simple. We shall try to find out a base for E over f. And the obvious base is, you look up the elements 1 plus E, x plus v square, or x plus v raised to the power n minus 1. Okay, look up this element. These are the same as 1 plus v, x plus v, x squared. By cosine multiplication, you can see x plus v into x plus v. This is the same as x square plus xv plus v square, when this results out to be x square plus v only. So we claim that this B is a base for E over F. And in order to show that it is a base over F, we need to verify that this set is linearly independent, and this spans the field E also. Now it is a routine exercise, which you can just see. B is linearly independent because you just considered a linear combination of these elements. And suppose it is equal to 0. 0 of what? 0 of field E or vector space E. Okay, by usual multiplication of cosets, we have this particular result. And because it is 0, it means B0 plus B1x plus B2x square, etc. This belongs to B. And the moment it belongs to B, it means it is a polynomial. So it can be written as a multiple of Px. Now, since this is generated by Px, therefore it is a multiple of Px. And but since degree of Px is equal to n, and degree of this is n minus 1, it is possible only when this is a zero polynomial. And hence, all the coefficients of this polynomial are nothing but 0. That is B0, B1, B2, B n minus 1. They are nothing but 0. And hence, this set B is linearly independent. And likewise, we can see that this spans E also, because in order to show that it spans, we want to show that each element of B can be written as, each element of E can be written as a linear combination of elements of B. Now, let us take any element of E, say fx plus V, where fx belongs to fx. Now, fx is any element of fx. Remember, this fx can be of degree greater than n. It could be degree less than n. Now, if degree of fx is less than px, okay, there are two possibilities only. Either degree of fx is less than degree px, or degree of fx is greater than degree px. So let us consider both the cases. First, let us consider the case when degree of fx is less than degree of px. Suppose fx is of the form alpha naught plus alpha 1x up to alpha s xs, where s is less than n, and alpha naught, alpha 1, alpha s belongs to f. Then fx plus v is nothing but, you just mentioned this, and apply the product of cosets, then you can just explain this. It means it is written as a linear combination of 1 plus v, x plus v, x square plus v, up to xn minus v plus v.
Sir,
Hello.
sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have another class. If you permit, we can continue it tomorrow, sir, please.
I will just take 2 more minutes.
All right, sir, please.
And
Go
I
ahead.
will wind up, otherwise I shall have to repeat tomorrow again.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fx plus v, where the degree of fx is less than degree of px, it has been expressed as a linear combination of elements of b. It means in this case, b spans v. Now, if fx is greater than degree of fx is greater than degree of px, then by division algorithm, we can write fx as px times qx plus rx, where rx equal to 0, or degree of rx is less than degree of px. Now, from here, we can reduce the degree of fx to be less than degree of px. Now, it can be seen through ordinary working, and therefore, in this case also, we can express fx plus v as a linear combination of elements 1 plus v, x square, x plus v, x square plus v up to xn minus v plus v. So therefore, B is a base for E over F. Now, because it contains n elements, therefore degree of E over F is nothing but n. So we have proved the second part of this theorem. First, we have shown that E is an extension of F. Next, we have shown that degree of E over F is n. And then last part, we want to show that this particular Px is going to have a root in E. I think because other classes to follow, therefore I stop here, and tomorrow I will start from this particular fact only.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, which book you are following for this?
Yeah, I think tomorrow I will give references to okay. Today I should have given, but somehow forgot. So tomorrow I will give. reference.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.